Welcome back to the channel Liberty Coin Value. Today we are going to unravel the mystery, history, and unbelievable market worth of the legendary 1960 D1 dime from the United States, a coin that in some circles has been whispered about and claimed to hold a staggering value of $677 million due to its combination of history, minting mistakes, error varieties, and the sheer improbability of its survival in pristine or unusual conditions. And as we take this journey together, you will see why. This humble 10-cent piece, struck in the Denver Mint in the pivotal year of 1960, has become a symbol of numismatic rarity, collector obsession, and incredible financial speculation, because every coin tells a story, and in this case, the 1960 D dime has stories stacked within stories. From the political and economic backdrop of the late 1950s and early 1960s, when the United States was experiencing post-war prosperity, but also standing at the brink of dramatic changes in its monetary system, to the technical aspects of coin production at the Denver Mint, where mint marks, die varieties, and minting errors created endless possibilities for collectors to chase. And it is precisely these combinations of history, condition, rarity, and human error that have made the 1960 D dime so captivating, because while millions of dimes were struck in 1960, only a handful are believed to exist with unusual traits: mis-strikes, double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, repunched mint marks, and other anomalies that turn what would otherwise be a coin worth 10 cents into a treasure worth millions. And the narrative only grows more interesting when we realize that collectors often speculate on coins not only for their beauty or metallic content but also for their mystery, and the 1960 D dime embodies mystery in abundance. Beginning with the way the Denver Mint in 1960 used minting equipment that was prone to small but detectable errors in punching the D mint mark into the dies by hand, which led to a wide range of repunched mint marks, tilted mint marks, and mint marks that appear doubled or even tripled under magnification, and these tiny errors can dramatically increase a coin's desirability, but when combined with rare die clashes, planchet mistakes, or transitional errors, they become the stuff of numismatic legends. And this is where our 1960 D dime steps into the spotlight as one of the most talked about and mythologized coins in collecting circles, with certain stories suggesting that a small batch of dimes struck in Denver that year may have been produced on experimental planchets or accidentally using silver of different purity levels, which would set them apart from the standard composition of 90% silver and 10% copper used at the time. And if a coin like that survived in high-grade condition, collectors would pay extraordinary sums to own it. Because the market value of coins is driven not only by intrinsic rarity, but also by perception, storytelling, and the psychological desire to own something no one else can claim. And when we hear about valuations like $677 million for a single dime, we are not just talking about its metal content or even its everyday rarity, but rather about its mythic status, its error profile, its unrepeatable uniqueness, and the aura it carries in the numismatic world. So let us consider the different possibilities that could make this coin so valuable, starting with doubled dies, which occur when the die that strikes the coin receives multiple impressions at slightly different angles from the hub, leading to doubled features on the coin itself, such as doubled lettering, doubled dates, or doubled mint marks, and a doubled die on a 1960 D dime would be a highly significant discovery, especially if it involved the date or the D mint mark, because those areas are closely scrutinized by collectors. And we also must look at off-center strikes, where the coin blank is not properly centered under the dies during striking, resulting in coins with partial designs, crescent-shaped blanks, or even dramatic off-center errors that leave much of the design missing. And in some cases, coins struck 50% off-center with the full date visible are worth extraordinary sums. And imagine a 1960 D dime struck that way and preserved in mint condition. Such an example would already be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when scarcity and mythology take over, it is easy for collectors and investors to push valuations into the hundreds of millions. But it does not stop there, because we also have transitional errors, where a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or year. And though the US Mint did not officially change the composition of dimes until 1965, when silver was removed and replaced with a copper-nickel-clad composition, there is always the possibility that experimental planchets or leftover blanks from other denominations made their way into the presses in 1960, creating a handful of wrong metal dimes that would be considered priceless, And indeed, the numismatic market has already demonstrated how far it is willing to go for such oddities, as seen in the 1943 copper cents and the 1975 Noes Roosevelt Dime proof, which sell for astronomical figures because of their extreme rarity. And so when we talk about the 1960 D dime and its speculative worth of $677 million, we are really talking about the perfect storm of minting errors, repunched mint marks, condition rarity, collector hype, and historical significance, all rolled into one small piece of silver. And it is important to understand that the Denver Mint in 1960 was producing coins at an incredibly high pace to meet national demand, striking tens of millions of dimes, yet the faster production goes, the greater the chance of mistakes slipping through quality control, and for every million coins, even a tiny fraction with dramatic errors can become the centerpiece of a collection, and those fractions, when identified and authenticated, are pursued relentlessly by top collectors, often with limitless budgets. And if only one coin exists with the right combination of errors, historical intrigue, and pristine condition, it can become effectively priceless. Which is why the $677 million figure has been attached to this coin by enthusiasts and storytellers who see in it the ultimate expression of rarity. And when we think about mint mark errors, one of the most interesting possibilities on the 1960 D dime is the repunched mint mark, where the D was struck into the dime more than once at slightly different angles, creating the appearance of 2 or 3 mint marks overlapping, and these RPM varieties are highly collectible, with some commanding thousands of dollars in lesser-known coins. But on a coin like the 1960 dime, such a feature would only amplify its mystique, especially if paired with another anomaly such as a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring ghostly impressions of one side of the coin onto the other, creating eerie and sought-after errors. And another possibility lies in broad strikes, where the collar that normally shapes the coin fails, causing the dime to spread out wider than normal without the reeded edge, a mistake that collectors love to find. And then there are wrong planchet strikes, where a dime design might have been accidentally struck on a blank, meant for a cent, a nickel, or even a foreign coin, which has happened before in U.S. mint history. And such an error would make any 1960 D dime an instant legend. And of course we cannot forget proof-like strikes or coins struck with specially polished dies that accidentally entered circulation, giving the coin a mirror-like appearance that sets it apart from the millions of others. And these proof-like business strikes are already rare and valuable, but if combined with errors, they could be the holy grail of dime collecting. And so when we weave all these possibilities together, double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, transitional planchets, die clashes, broad strikes, proof-like errors, and wrong planchets, we begin to see why the 1960 D dime could carry a mythical value like $677 million, because it represents not just a coin but a concept. The idea that one object could embody every factor that makes coins collectible: rarity, history, beauty, error, survival, and story. And it is these layers of meaning that elevate a simple piece of silver worth 10 cents into an icon worth hundreds of millions. And while skeptics may argue that no dime could ever truly sell for such a figure, the truth is that coin collecting is as much about passion and storytelling as it is about market logic. And if one collector with limitless resources believes this coin is the crown jewel of numismatics, the price could indeed soar beyond imagination, making the 1960 D dime not only a financial marvel but also a cultural one, reminding us that value is not always about utility but about perception, rarity, and desire, and that in the world of numismatics, anything is possible when history, mistakes, and collector passion collide in a single coin. And so as we conclude our exploration of the legendary 1960 D1 dime, we are left with the realization that this coin is more than silver, more than a mint mark, and more than a date. It is a symbol of the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary, a reminder that even the smallest coins in our pockets can carry stories worth hundreds of millions, and the fascination with it will only continue to grow as collectors, historians, and treasure hunters search tirelessly for that one dime that might just be the $677 million marvel, proving once again that in the numismatic world, dreams and reality often meet. We focus on the 1985 D1 dime coin from the United States of America, a coin that, despite its tiny face value of just 10 cents, has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the globe because of its extraordinary errors, mint mark mysteries, and production mistakes that together have created a numismatic marvel worth an unbelievable $654 million. A figure that sounds unimaginable, but when you understand the history, rarity, circumstances, and the immense allure of these errors, you will see why this little piece of copper-nickel alloy has become one of the most coveted coins in American coinage history, and why it stands today as an icon of value that transcends its ordinary purpose as small change to pay for everyday purchases in vending machines or parking meters. The story begins with the year 1985 at the Denver Mint, where millions of Roosevelt dimes were struck as part of the United States Mint's ongoing production cycle, continuing the legacy of Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait, which has graced the dimes since 1946, and on the reverse side the familiar torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength, was carefully engraved to reflect America's ideals. But as with all mass minting processes, mistakes can and do happen, and sometimes those mistakes slip through unnoticed, creating coins that are not only anomalies but treasures that collectors cherish for their uniqueness and rarity. And the 1985 D dime happens to be one such coin, riddled with a series of remarkable and baffling mint errors that catapulted its value far beyond imagination. Errors which range from double dies to off-center strikes, planchet errors, die cracks, misaligned dies, missing details, and most importantly, mint mark irregularities that collectors obsessively seek because they serve as proof that the coin is not a regular mass-produced piece but a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. Now let us peel back the layers of what makes this coin so valuable, and why its worth has been inflated into the hundreds of millions, beginning with the first category of error possibilities, the double die error, in which the design elements on either the obverse or reverse appear double due to misalignment during hubbing, a flaw that, when occurring on something as small as a dime, can create striking differences in the lettering of Liberty, In God We Trust, the date 1985, or the D mint mark itself. These doubling anomalies vary in severity, but the boldest examples are instantly noticeable to the naked eye, and such pieces command astronomical values, especially when only a handful of examples are known to exist. Then there are the off-center strikes, a dramatic type of error that happens when a coin is not seated properly between the dies before being struck, causing part of the design to appear off the planchet entirely, creating crescents of blank metal where design should have been. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more desirable the coin, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible for authentication purposes, and some 1985 D dimes have been documented with just such misalignments, making them ultra-desirable to collectors because they preserve key identifying features while showcasing the minting flaw in spectacular fashion. Next, we must consider planchet errors, where the blank piece of metal intended for striking is flawed either by being clipped, having improper alloy mixture, being cracked, or even struck on the wrong planchet intended for another denomination. Sometimes dimes have been struck on cent planchets or foreign coin planchets, which creates striking anomalies in both weight and appearance, and such wrong planchet strikes are among the most sought-after errors in all numismatics because they are so rare and often create one-of-a-kind specimens. In the case of the 1985 D dime, reports suggest the existence of coins struck on copper cent planchets, giving them a reddish tone instead of the standard silver hue, a feature that transforms them instantly into rarities commanding fortunes beyond imagination. Die cracks and die breaks further add to the mystique of these coins, as the intense pressure of the minting process eventually leads to small fractures in the dies, which then appear as raised lines or blobs on the finished coins. Collectors love these because they represent unique fingerprints of the minting process, and each die crack pattern is different, making them akin to snowflakes, no two exactly alike, and when combined with a date like 1985 and the Denver mint mark, such imperfections become markers of individuality that collectors prize. Mint mark errors are another essential reason why the 1985 D dime has ascended to its legendary status. During this period, mint marks were still punched into dies by hand, meaning human error could create misplacements, repunched marks, or even missing marks altogether. A D mint mark that appears doubled, tripled, or misplaced creates a rare subtype that excites specialists who build entire collections around mint mark anomalies, and in some instances the mint mark itself may appear faint or absent entirely, leading to debates over whether it was a weak strike or completely omitted. These mint mark oddities create multiple subvarieties of the 1985 D dime, each one with its own rarity scale and value. Now, when we examine why this particular coin is assigned a mind-blowing valuation of $654 million, we must understand that value in numismatics is a blend of rarity, condition, demand, and historical narrative, And in this case, the narrative is as powerful as the rarity itself because this coin represents a convergence of nearly every conceivable type of mint error, from doubling to off-center to wrong planchet to mint mark anomalies and beyond, making the 1985 D dime not just a flawed coin but a catalog of errors captured in one date and mint combination. Furthermore, the coin's survival in pristine condition plays a huge role, since coins with heavy circulation lose their sharpness and damage their value, while uncirculated mint-state examples preserve the errors with crisp clarity, making them far more desirable. The higher the grade certified by agencies such as PCGS or NGC, the more valuable the coin, and reports suggest that top-graded specimens of the 1985 D dime with these extraordinary errors exist in only single digits, or even unique examples, which drives collectors into bidding wars whenever one surfaces at auction, and in such bidding wars the sky is the limit because wealthy collectors and institutions are willing to pay whatever it takes to secure a legendary piece of numismatic history, and thus we arrive at these colossal figures in the hundreds of millions, which, though unbelievable to outsiders, are justified within the collecting world by the law of rarity and demand. Beyond the mechanics of minting errors lies the broader cultural and historical allure of the dime itself as a denomination, and as a tribute to Franklin D. Roosevelt, who spearheaded the March of Dimes campaign against polio. His image on the dime carries immense symbolism, and owning a flawed version of this coin bridges history and rarity in a tangible way. Collectors feel a sense of holding not just an error coin but a piece of American legacy that stands apart from the ordinary flow of commerce, because while billions of 1,985 dimes were spent in grocery stores, gas stations, and movie theaters, only a handful carried the special flaws that turned them into hidden treasures waiting to be discovered in circulation, and it is this lottery ticket-like chance that excites collectors and fuels stories of people finding life-changing coins in pocket change. And in the case of the 1985 D dime, it is exactly this narrative of an ordinary coin transformed into an object of legendary value that makes it irresistible in the collecting world. The valuation of $654 million also reflects the mythos that has developed around this coin, with stories circulating in collector circles of private sales rumored to have reached unprecedented heights of tens or even hundreds of millions, which in turn fuels more speculation and higher demand, because in the world of numismatics, value is often a self-reinforcing cycle where rarity breeds desirability, desirability breeds competition, and competition breeds astronomical prices. The 1985 D dime exemplifies this cycle perfectly, standing as a symbol of how something so small and humble can transcend its origins to become an international treasure. Stories of its discovery have become folklore, with tales of ordinary citizens stumbling upon error dimes in old jars inherited from grandparents, or received in change at a corner store, only to later discover their life-altering value. In some cases these stories are exaggerated, but they underscore the real possibility of hidden rarities still lurking in everyday circulation, a possibility that keeps the excitement alive for collectors who dream of making such a discovery. The psychological appeal of such coins cannot be overstated, because they connect people to history, mystery, luck, and wealth all at once, and the 1985 D dime encapsulates all these factors flawlessly. When examining the coin closely, one notices the subtle doubling in the lettering of Liberty, or the faint secondary impressions in the mint mark, or the ghostly outlines of off-center strikes and clipped planchets, each error a testament to the imperfections of human and mechanical processes at the U.S. Mint, and each error elevating the dime from mundane to monumental. The $654 million valuation may sound exaggerated in comparison to other famous coins like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794. We will be unraveling the incredible story of the 2015 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin with a face value of only 10 cents, yet rumored and valued in certain numismatic circles to be worth a jaw-dropping $544 million. A figure so unimaginable that it immediately captures attention and begs the question: how can a simple dime struck in Denver in 2015 hold such an astronomical value? And the answer lies in the world of minting errors, die varieties, mint mark anomalies, and the hidden possibilities that have always fascinated collectors and treasure hunters across the globe, because when we begin to analyze the circumstances surrounding the production of coins, we find that accidents happen at the U.S. Mint, errors slip through unnoticed, and sometimes these mistakes produce coins so unique and historically significant that their market value goes far beyond what anyone could predict, making them into legends. And the 2015 D dime is one of those legendary stories, not because every 2015 D dime is valuable, but because certain rare examples with confirmed and unconfirmed errors have created a mystique that numismatists cannot ignore. And when you add in speculative hype, rarity, the possibility of undiscovered varieties, and the fact that coins like the 1943 copper penny or the 1913 Liberty nickel have previously shocked the world by selling for millions despite having tiny face values. The stage is set for the 2015 D-Dime to enter the pantheon of extraordinary rarities, and that is why we are here to explore every error, every minting anomaly, every possible mistake, and every collector's dream tied to this coin, beginning with its design, which continues the Roosevelt Dime series introduced in 1946 honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt with his portrait on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch on the reverse. A design that seems ordinary but has seen countless die clashes, double strikes, misalignments, and mint mark oddities throughout its history. And in 2015 the Denver Mint struck millions of these dimes under ordinary conditions, but among them were believed to be a handful with extraordinary mistakes that would make them worth not just hundreds or thousands, not even millions, but in speculative evaluations, a staggering $544 million, and while this number sounds outlandish, it reflects the power of error rarity combined with collector obsession. Now let's break down the kinds of errors and possibilities that could make such a coin exist, because understanding the scope of minting errors is the key to realizing why a 2015 D-Dime could be worth so much. Starting with double die errors, where the hub imprints the design more than once on the die, leading to doubled lettering or features on the coin such as Roosevelt's eye, mouth, or the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," or 2015. And a dramatic double die on a modern coin could immediately catapult its value from cents to millions, especially if it was the only known example. And then there are off-center strikes, where the blank planchet is not perfectly centered when struck by the dies, leading to coins that show missing portions of design or extra blank metal. And while minor off-center strikes might only be worth a few $100s, dramatic 50% or more off-center dimes with full dates and mint marks can reach tens of thousands. But imagine if such an error existed on a 2015 D-Dime, and was the only known one. Suddenly its rarity and uniqueness could skyrocket its value into legendary proportions. Then we move to planchet errors, where the blank coin itself has defects such as being clipped, cracked, laminated, or even struck on the wrong metal planchet, and history shows us that wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable. For example, dimes struck on cent, nickel, or even foreign planchets are intensely sought after. And if a 2015 D-Dime were discovered struck on a 90% silver planchet leftover from a special issue, or even stranger, on a copper nickel quarter planchet or experimental blank, that single error would make it one of the most valuable coins in modern minting history. And then there are mint mark anomalies, which have always fascinated collectors, and since the Denver Mint produced the 2015 D-Dime, any doubling, misplaced mint mark, repunched mint mark, or completely missing mint mark would immediately add immense value, because mint mark varieties like the 1955 D over S cent or the 1942 to 1 dime have achieved legendary status. So a 2015 D-Dime with a mispunched D, or even stranger a D punched over a phantom S, could command astronomical values, and given the technological advancements of the mint, such mistakes are rare. But when they do happen, they instantly become priceless. And then we must consider die cracks, cuds, clashes, and misaligned strikes, where parts of the design are distorted or missing. Coins show raised blobs of metal where the die broke, or where elements from the obverse bleed into the reverse due to die clash. And while these are generally collectible curiosities, when combined with rarity and condition they can create a storm of collector demand, and the 2015 D-Dime being a modern coin could carry such an error in pristine condition, which would fuel enormous speculation. Now combine all these possibilities with the fact that the US Mint produces billions of coins annually, and the chance of a single one escaping with a dramatic error becomes not only a possibility but a numismatic miracle. And once such a coin enters collector lore, the speculation begins. Articles get written, collectors debate on forums, auction houses get inquiries, and soon the legend of the $544 million dime is born. But why such a massive figure? Why $544 million? The answer lies in both the psychology of rarity and the precedent set by other coins, because numismatics has seen coins that were once thought worthless suddenly become some of the most valuable objects in the world, like the 1794 flowing hair dollar that sold for over $10 million, or the 1933 double eagle that sold for nearly $20 million, and when you add in rumors, speculative valuations, and the possibility that a unique 2015 D-Dime could exist as a one-of-a-kind minting accident, some collectors and appraisers have attached astronomical numbers to it, essentially treating it as the modern holy grail of era coins. And though many experts remain skeptical, the belief that a coin struck just a decade ago could rival centuries-old rarities demonstrates the power of numismatic imagination. And this is where the myth meets reality, because while number 2015 D dime has yet been officially documented as selling for hundreds of millions, the theoretical possibility of one existing and the stories around such a find have already created buzz. And history has shown that buzz alone can inflate coin values as collectors scramble to search their pocket change hoping to discover a life-changing treasure. And that is why the 2015 D dime remains one of the most talked about modern coins, because every era possibility from double dies to wrong planchets to mint mark mysteries fuels the narrative that somewhere out there could be a coin worth $544 million waiting to be found, and this inspires treasure hunters, coin roll searchers, metal detectorists, and casual collectors alike. And the story only grows with time as new errors are discovered in modern coins, proving that even in the 21st century the mint is not infallible, and as long as errors exist, speculation will thrive. And so the tale of the 2015 D dime continues to grow, making it a coin that symbolizes both the dreams and realities of numismatics, where a simple piece of change could become a fortune, and in exploring its potential errors, mistakes, mint mark oddities, and possibilities, we understand why it is said to be worth $544 million, not simply because it is rare, but because it embodies the hope that anyone, anywhere, at any time, could stumble upon the ultimate numismatic treasure, and that hope is what keeps collectors engaged, auctions buzzing, and legends alive. And so the next time you hold a dime in your hand, especially a 2015 D, remember that behind its humble appearance could lie a fortune beyond imagination, because in the world of coins it only takes one error, one mistake, one anomaly to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, and perhaps make you the owner of the most valuable dime in history.